Hey guys, and welcome to Dom's Daily Deals channel. In this video I'm going to show you how you can beat the Germans on very hard with the British Empire and just keep beating them, because this strategy really works if you pay attention. So I'm taking my engineers up to take points of the fuel point. That's the first thing I want to do, take fuel points, and also take positions so that all your sectors are connected. I'm also putting buildings, if you just noticed, on the edges there, so that my buildings are closer to the front lines. So if I build a troop or something, then they're going to be ready there near the front lines. I might have not done this later on with the vehicle building, but just consider that actually if you build buildings closer in as far as you can, you're going to have more of an advantage this way. I'm also starting off with building engineers or recruiting engineers, because I believe actually engineers, they can be in the front line and they can start setting up defensive positions if you need it. Whereas if you go for an MG unit, I feel that you can put them into a position, but then suddenly, because you're on a very hard difficulty with the AI, they're more likely to counteract that and actually flank you. A couple of things you noticed I just did was build a medic center near as close in as possible. Again, you can get troops to retreat back and forth to heal your troops and then move forward, and that will save you resources. I don't particularly do this, but I might want to do that in the future if I'm playing again, because I think this might be an advantage. You've also noticed that I chose the Sea Battle group. This group allows me to have the catches so that I can then put points to have more points, because I have those catches in place. Automatically I don't have to get engineers to go and build them. Saves a lot of time. I also put in place an upgrade building so they can upgrade my troops. I mean, don't focus on this entirely, but if you can build this, or if you can build an increased experience with your units or increased weaponry for an upgrade, it will make you have more an advantage over the battlefield as well. Let's move the gameplay forward a bit. And I'm already building my first light vehicle building, and that's all you're going to need for very hard difficulty. Also, having your engineers do their microsystem, so their flamethrowers, building their flamethrowers, is really important, because it actually is very devastating towards an enemy infantry unit. It's very anti-infantry, but not so much towards vehicles. But don't worry, because when I get my light tanks, they're going to be overrun. I mean, I might seem like I'm being overrun now, which is true, but if you can focus on these vehicles straight up, I'm upgrading my vehicle there, I'm trying to get this in place so that I'm going to be eventually getting these tanks, and then when I get these tanks, I'm going to get my troops and I'm going to overrun the enemy. So let's move forward. So as you can see, I'm getting overrun by these little scout cars, but don't worry, because my light tank's coming, and the light tank's really good because when it's in place, so I've got it now, I'm moving troops forward, they're going to get into place, and this is important because I'm moving my engineers with my tank, having a combined arms. If you can get infantry with this as well, it would make your squad even stronger. But what's so great about this is that it's all very light, so they're going to be able to get into position really fast, take over the area, then move on. So the enemy won't know what's hit them. They'll be like, oh shit, we need to do something. So they start counteracting other places as well. So don't always just keep your focus on this, because you might then the enemy might end up going, okay, we can't defeat them here, but what we'll do is we'll go around to defeat them in other points, and then you might think, oh shit, now I've lost a lot of the locations here. So you have to keep building these tanks, and you have to keep building troops, and you have to get like 1 or 3 different groups, and you have to keep pushing this group, maybe one of them to the forward location, one of them around the sides, and then one of them down, and you have to keep going on like this. And then the enemy, they'll get tanks, but the thing is, they'll only have 2 of the 4 tanks, so they'll be overrun double the amount of tanks. You'll have double more the amount of tanks, because also what we're doing is, where, as I said, trying to focus on those fuel points and moving your troops forward. Another thing I would say is, try to focus on the victory points as well, because if you can even take 2 victory points, then the other enemy, they won't know what they're doing, and they'll be losing those ticket points. And if they lose enough, then you win anyway. So as I explained before, that the MGs, we won't need them because the light tanks act as an MG, but they also act as combined arms, they act as fast moving vehicle, they can also pin down troops in different locations with their, not just their machine guns, but their turrets. So these light tanks are very good, and actually they gather quite a lot of punch. If we move forward, you can see that now the enemy will have tanks, but they won't have nearly as much, and they're only focused on these heavy tanks. So you can see now I'm actually pushing back the Germans quite a lot in this. And it's interesting because I was on a back foot before, but now I have lots of these tanks in place. They're not sure what to do really. I'm taking positions much easier, and you can see this tank I've got here. It's shooting at me. Yeah, I mean, it's doing quite a lot of damage, but I think I'm going to win it. Yep, I just won. Because these little tanks, they've got quite a good punch. And we've got the fuel locations, we've got the victory points, so now we just keep pushing. Another thing, the engineers are good if you have them with these little tanks, because now he's in a position where he's actually got very bad damage, and I unfortunately don't have troops there to support him, so he's gonna die. But if you can actually get engineers like that with your tanks, and if they don't die, then that'll be good, because then they can actually repair those tanks and move forward. So it's all about mobility. If you can, the more infantry you have with your tanks, the better. Always think of combined arms. Having medical areas like this is very interesting, because if you can build a medical area on a strategic point, heals your troops faster without them having to go back to their base and heal there. This means that you have more mobility in the front line. Now I have a secure front line, I'm actually pushing my troops up to the flank so that I can gain some territory along the way on the flank there, and that gives me much more advantage because whilst the enemy is dealing with the front line there, my troops, I'm starting to bring other troops up and overwhelming him in this position. And you can see now that my ticket system is much greater than theirs. At the beginning, my ticket system was not so great. And you don't have to be on top notch at the start, because you know that, as I said, you're going to start getting combined arms quicker than them. If you can get your tech stuff quicker than the enemy, then you have an advantage. I noticed I didn't use a lot of the battle special abilities on the side there, but actually it's a very useful thing to use if you find you're on a back foot. You can call in air support, you can call in paratroopers, and you know, paratroopers also, that's a very good thing for mobility, because instead of having to build a unit in your base and then having them to come all the way to the front line, you can just bring some paratroopers in and done. I actually think one of the very good things with actually the Germans, and I'll talk about this maybe when I paint the Germans, is the paratroopers. They actually start with paratroopers straight at the start, which I think could be quite a good advantage in terms of mobility and also taking over areas quicker. So moving this forward again, you can see my tanks are coming into position here, and there's a tank destroyer there, and they're actually doing alright, these light tanks. They're really doing right, and you can see my engineers have flamethrowers, so they're dominating the battlefield straight away. And I've probably got maybe another 2 or 3 groups around the battlefield, so they're really outnumbered. And it shows actually, and this is what really actually happened, that in terms of the tanks for Germany, they spend so much time on the heavy tanks, so they were producing maybe one tank every so often, but then the British side, they were producing more tanks. They had lighter and medium tanks. So this is what you have to do. You have to take that to an advantage and go, this is what the advantages of the British forces are. Let's use this against Germany. And having that control over those fuel depots, having a majority, you're going to win the battle. So you can see I've got the huge majority of the tickets, and I'm about to win. And yes, victory. So in conclusion, folks, I'd say there are 4 factors. There's mobility, there's speed, there's combined arms, and being aggressive. If you put those points for this specific scenario, then you'll win. It doesn't mean that this strategy will work all the time, or it will work for other factions that you use, but for this specific faction and against very hard, it works. Well, I'll leave that thought with you, and I've also put these points in the description so you can look over them. See you guys later.